Alrighty. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Rob Moschetti. I'm the National Sales Manager at Campion Education. And look, just before we start today, I'd just like to do an acknowledgement of country. Campion Education acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and the community. We pay our respects to elders past, present and future, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. Thank you. Firstly, thanks for joining us on behalf of Campion and taking some time out of, I'm sure, what is a busy day and a busy start to the school year. The purpose of today is our Senior e-learning specialist, Paul Sile, is going to do an overview of the MyConnect platform and also, I guess, to provide as much information to make it a smooth start for your teachers and your students, but also an opportunity to engage questions. We'll have a session at the end for any questions or in the chat as well, which we might pull together perhaps as we get towards the end of the session. Nothing is off limits. We're more than comfortable to answer as best we can and help provide a great experience on a digital platform that we're enormously proud of, that being MyConnect too. So I'm going to hand over to Paul Sile and thank you again for joining us. And I hope you enjoy the next 45 minutes.
Thank you, Rob. I appreciate the introduction. Yes, as you rightfully mentioned, everyone's probably pretty busy and it's been a crazy start to the year. So I guess today's a bit of an overview of some of our digital solutions and also a refresher if you've already had, if you've been using our MyConnect product before, but also great value for if you are first time using it as well. So I will jump straight into sharing my screen. Right. Okay, so today to give you an idea, we're going to talk about Campion's digital ecosystem. Now, I'm going to break that down into 4 sections and base that around MyConnect 2. It's our digital platform, and some tips and tricks and use case scenarios, feedback that we've had from schools on how that is being used in the classroom. Then we're going to step over to the MyConnect admin portal area, which is where we can view and manage some student and teacher and MyConnect accounts and do a little bit of administration work there and troubleshooting if necessary. Then we're going to step down to the digital purchase report, really important feature for anyone in the school, especially in their admin area, but also just if you're managing, looking at data and the likes. And so this is a special tool that we've put together where we can proactively make sure that orders get released in a timely manner. And following that, we will go into more of the admin area around data, and that's the Secure Connect import area. So without further ado, I'm going to jump into all of this. So I'll just share a different screen. And here's one I prepared earlier. Okay, so make sure. Good. Hopefully everyone can see that. Okay, so this is our MyConnect 2 bookshelf. So I've been set up as a teacher in this instance where I've got a whole lot of resources on my bookshelf, and now I'm going to try to make that an easy process on how you access those resources. So when you first log in, you're presented with a tour guide. And this tour guide, as you can see here, will take you through the whole program and application and basically do what I'm going to do today. So we will skip that. But as a handy tip for your, especially for teachers and students in the classroom, because we're probably all guilty of clicking that close button and skipping all the tours and then later on thinking, I wish I knew where that tour was. Well, you can reactivate it by going over to your profile on the left-hand side here and hitting Reset Tours. So that will it's really helpful, especially in class, if you've got some students struggling to understand or remember how to use the product. This can give them a really quick tour guide on how to fly through that. Now, so on the left-hand side here, we've got a number of options on our menu bar here. But as you can see, I've got a lot of resources on my bookshelf because as a teacher, you'll have a lot of resources. Now, as a student, that'll be narrowed down to more specific to what the student requires. But with teachers and teacher accounts, we're provisioning everything that we can for all staff in more of a global or an all-in approach. So that really helps for if you as a teacher have to pick up another class, but it makes sure that you get all the particular resources that you want. You're not just getting years 7 resources, you're getting the whole lot throughout the whole school. It's also great value for any where you've got any teacher aid email addresses or accounts that get set up. It just means that we've instantly got an email address or an account ready with all the resources that's currently listed or book listed for your particular school. So the top right hand side here, we can sort by subject. Pretty easy way to breeze through it as well. But the most common, especially for a teacher, is your favorites. So that way you can narrow it down to the products you just use. Now, every time you log in, it's only going to show you the favorites page, so that way only the resources that you're looking for will be there. Now, there is another filter option on the left-hand side here. Very easy to search through for particular subjects and the likes. But again, once you've found the resources that you need, the favorites item is probably going to be the one for you. Now, on the left-hand side here, there is a trial feature. Now, this was an initiative that Campion built into the system some years back in regards to selection, in particular for selection for the upcoming season. Now, I'm sure no one's ready to start looking at 2026 yet, but nevertheless, it's still a good tool to see what's available or sometimes what's coming. So as I clicked on trial, now all the resources that are in our digital catalog are here, and you can actually activate a particular resource and trial that and that'll be added to your MyConnect bookshelf. Now, as I said, it's also really handy for new resources because, for example, if I type in page, this is going to come up with page proofs. So these are products that may or may not necessarily be published yet, and at least you can get a few chapters or whatever the likes are. So the publishers are pretty keen to push this, to give this to us so that we can then give you more exposure to new resources and what's coming out in the market. As I said, a really awesome tool for when it comes down to selection. But even the trial, if you as a teacher want some subsequent or some extra resources or to see what else is out there, this is a good way to quickly get access to see what's in the market for your particular resource. Now, in the bottom right-hand corner here, oops, I'll just get back to the bookshelf. Bottom right-hand corner here, which you can't really see because I've zoomed my screen, but there is let me try that again, beg your pardon. Okay, so as you can see, I'm back on the home screen from here. Now, the goal of what the MyConnect platform is trying to do is to help you get from one or two places. It's either getting to the online publisher resources via single sign-on, so we're eliminating the extra username and password, or it's accessing fundamentally the PDF of the product. Either way, we're trying to make this all in one place, so it's a seamless approach, whether you're going to a Jacaranda, a Cambridge, a Pearson, an Oxford, whatever the publication is, the experience is the same, because more often than not, your student doesn't know which publisher prints their humanities or their science resources. They just know what the front cover looks like. So very handy, because we have the front covers. All right, as I said, I'll get rid of the little tour guide. Here is your options where you're going to Oxford Digital Resources here for this particular resource. That'll take me via single sign-on. If I click on that, straight over into the Oxford Digital bookshelf. Really snappy, very fast. Don't need to log in with username or password again because it's already been authenticated when you logged into the MyConnect platform. Or we're going to the PDF version where we've added some and enriched what is fundamentally a very flat product. So I click on Open Book, and here we go. Now this is going to remember which page you're last on. A little tour guides come up again, but we will skip that for today. Okay, so all this product stores all your annotations, and the last page you're on, a lot of information like that, all in the cloud. So if a student ever said that the dog ate their laptop, they can always log in on another device and they won't lose any of their annotations and so forth. You can see that it's remembered that I was on page 9 or 10 of this particular resource. It's very easy, very quick to navigate. Now, on the top right-hand corner, there's a settings button. There isn't a lot of settings by design. This is not meant to be complicated. It's intuitive. It's get in and go. And on the right-hand side here, you can see your full screen. You've got your dark mode, light mode. They're the most common tools there that you would probably use in this instance. Now, moving over, if to some navigation areas, we've got contents and bookmarks. And you'll see on the right-hand side here, these are paginated and bookmarked, or the contents pages, really well. Makes it very easy for you as a teacher to navigate, especially if you're in your class plan and you want your students to get to chapter 3.6, open the book, straight to 3.6. Very easy to get to the particular resource and the page you want. Of course, there is a keywords area as well, which you can search, and that will search through every page in this particular resource. Now, I think this resource is pretty big, as some of the humanities ones are these days, but as you can see, yep, so there's 550 pages. Pretty significant, and fortunately nice and quick. You can see when I change pages, it does navigate very quickly throughout the product. Now, where we've added some actual extra bells and whistles and extra features is from an annotations perspective. So there's about 5 different types of annotations, and that's where, and we'll go through a number of those now, and I'll start off with highlight. So on the right-hand side, here is my annotations panel where all my annotations are stored. Now I've clicked on the first annotation, which is on page 6. It's jumped me to page 6. Hopefully you can see that. And you can see in this lilac color that this certain area that I've highlighted. Now what that means is it's taken this piece of text, it's copied it over here onto the right-hand side of the screen, as you can see there. And now that's great for the annotation or a bookmark, but now we can add some annotations to it, so it's got some context and the reason why you actually made that bookmark in that annotation in the first place. Now it's a really handy tip, if you like, for teachers to also give to your students is initially when you're making the annotation is to put some keywords in there, because fortunately at the end you can search for particular annotations. In this example, if I type the word homework, now all my annotations that have got the word homework in them, so that I've got a keyword throughout all my annotations being homework. Makes it very easy to navigate and find those so they don't get lost, because as you can imagine, as the year goes on and students are creating lots of new annotations, or you as teachers, you might want a quick way to try to get back to those annotations. So it could be a simple thing that says there's a mid-semester exam, something that then the student remember when I type mid-semester or exam in, then all the annotations that will reflect that, and then they'll know where to study will be easily found. So moving down, and we've got underlines. This could be underline, strike through, squiggle, whatever that might look like. I have had use cases where a maths teacher found a few errors, if you like, on a product and wanted to cross them out and then correct them. So it was a good way that they could also do that throughout the product. Moving down is shapes. Now this is just a big rectangle, otherwise without the context, I guess. So on the right hand side here you can see, again, I've written decision making, exam, study, some keywords, and then my actual annotation is here. It's saying, and my note, my comment, this will be on the semester 2 exam, be sure to study pages 58 and so forth. So there's a common theme throughout how the annotations are made, and that's how you can add a bit of context to what the annotation is about. Now you can see this annotation here is red. That can be styled throughout the whole product. Now, if you have very organized students, you might or teachers, you might make everything that's exam related in red, and anything that's homework related in purple, and anything like that. And then you can also filter that by color, so you can easily navigate throughout your product. So there's a lot of little tools in there to try to help you navigate and actually create some order with all your annotations as well. Moving down, now this is freehand. It was a little bit of an effort for me trying to do that with a mouse pointer, but this application does support pen and touch input as well, which would probably look a little bit better than my attempt to study this chapter. But this works kind of like an annotation for an annotation. So that could be a tick, squiggle, some extra writing, whatever the student or teacher you put on your page. But then over the right hand side, again, we've got some keywords, making sure that's easy to find, and the actual context or the reason why I made that annotation. This is an important chapter, more homework required, complete by Wednesday, as an example. Moving down, and we've got highlighting, very much similar to the freehand pen tool. I've just highlighted a big heading and put an arrow towards it, but without the context, which we add over the right hand side. Again, keywords, and some information about why I made that particular annotation. Moving down, and we have what we call the rich text note. So this is where we can actually do a little bit more with that particular annotation. We can embed things. So in this instance, I've embedded a YouTube video clip, but that could be a Word document, could be an image, could be a link to a different website. There's a number of different options that you can embed something in this rich text note. Again, I put some keywords at the top to make sure it's easy to find. Now, the other cool part, if you like, about the rich text notes is, as a teacher, you can actually share that annotation with other teachers, students, and the likes. So there's a little house sharing school button there, and this is where you could change where you want to share this annotation. Currently, it's set as defaulted to private, but you could share this to a teacher, or you could look through the school to a cohort, all year 7, all year 8, or narrow it down to just 5 kids because you've got them in a class that needs extra work or the likes. Now, as a teacher, you might use this to, if you're, let's say, head of humanities, and you've got extra material to support chapter 3.8, chapter 4, chapter 5, whatever that might look like throughout the product. And you can create that rich text note. That could be a link to a website, could be a PDF, could be whatever that is, but you can then share that with your other faculty leaders of humanity that teach humanities. And that way, when they log in, they'll actually see that annotation in their annotation area as well. You can hopefully see on the right-hand side, but above every annotation in this sense, it says me, because it's one that I created. But if it was shared with me, it would say who that user was that had shared that as well. Now, moving on. So if I highlight, actually, let's go have a look at the toolbar. So if I highlight a portion of text, you are presented with a toolbar. This is how easy it is to navigate and how easy it is to annotate particular parts of the text. So here you can see I've got my highlight, my underline, squiggly line, and strikeout. So, and I'll go on to the other tools shortly. But that's the toolbar based just around that particular piece of text. So it wraps it to the text. Now, if you're anywhere else on the product and you right-click, if I right-click, you present it with a bigger toolbar, because this is more freehand stuff. So this is where you can put shapes down. You can you do freehand drawing or highlighting, or type some text on whatever you like throughout the page as well. And that's how you can add, enrich, and use these particular tools. Now, if you have any students where English is a second language, or students that might have any learning challenges, we have built in the immersive reader. So here I've highlighted a portion of text, and if I click the immersive reader, excellent, that's going to then grab that text and put it in the immersive reader, where it can be manipulated and or changed. So there's a number of different ways to change that. It could be from the font size, changing the background color to make it easier, more legible for particular students with particular needs. There are grammar options as well throughout here, and also some reading preferences. Now, if I press the play button here, and I think it might come out at your end.
Much of the Australian continent is dry.
It will read that aloud for you as well. Oops. So it will read that aloud for you as well. Over in the reading preferences here, so you can change that single line, multi-line, and thereabouts. But as I mentioned before, if you have any students with English as a second language, you can search for a different language throughout here. And let's just go French. If I, for example, had click on a word, dividing, there's the word in English.
Dividing.
There, I'm not going to try to pronounce that. There it is in French. Same goes if you wave the cursor over particular areas.
Oriental.
So that can definitely help support that there as well. Or you can translate the entire document. And what this will now do is...
Une grande partie du continent australien est sèche.
Read it in French a lot better than what I can. So that should hopefully make that it's a pretty handy feature, especially if you've got any students with English as a second language. Now, I think moving back to the bookshelf. Okay, so as teachers, I'm sure you don't teach from page 1 to, in this case, I think there's 550 pages in this book. 1 to 550. So in your class plan, whether you're using a learning management system or some other form of class plan or software to communicate with your students, and or you're doing it personally yourself, We have the ability to embed a deep link. So what this does is this will take, in this case, you can hopefully see page 62. Take that link and you can put that in your class plan. You can embed that into your learning management system so that it can embed the particular page. But if you're doing it in a class plan, you might be jumping around from chapters, for example. And when the student or yourself clicks on that, that will open up MyConnect and open up this particular resource, and it'll do it to this particular page. So it's saving the clicks, if you like, and making that just a much more seamless process of especially being able to navigate or jump around the book without necessarily being in the product the entire time as well. Okay, so back to the bookshelf. Yeah, so our goal with the MyConnect platform is so that everything is in one location. So there isn't a Pearson Place, there's a Cambridge Digital, an Oxford, a Matilda, and the likes. Confusion for students, especially to get to, but also to make it easier for you as teachers to be able to have all your resources and so forth in one location. As teachers, we will provision as many resources as we can, so that we have the rights to. So that way you've got an open bookshelf with everything that's available that your school has selected, and making that a much easier process throughout. Okay, so that's MyConnect. As Rob mentioned earlier, if you've got any questions at all, please throw it in the Q&A. We can have a bit of a deeper dive after this anyway. I'm being mindful of time because there's still quite a few things to get through, but that's a good overview or a refresher, if you like, from how to on using the MyConnect platform. Following that, let's jump into back to the PowerPoint slideshow. Hopefully I'm all good here. Okay, now we're going to move down to some admin areas or some supporting areas for you as teachers within the school. In particular, MyConnect to admin portal. So hopefully everyone can see that on the screen. I might actually make me a lot smaller. Hopefully that's worked. So yeah, when you MyConnect portal, now this is where you can see all the accounts that are set up with MyConnect in itself. You can see in this case I have filtered by year 7. Now it's a pretty simple view by design, where you can see the students' names, and in this case they're in year 7, and the status of the account, whether it's active and the last time they've logged in. Now you can suspend an account as well. Now you may use that if, for example, we've set up all your students and perhaps there's a fee they haven't paid for, or they haven't paid for a particular resource. So you want to restrict the use until they have paid for it. So there's a few little things that you can do in here. And then finally on the right-hand side there is impersonate. So you can actually impersonate an account. So if you have a student that has a technical challenge, can't get in, thinks they're missing a resource, you can actually get in and actually impersonate that user to see exactly what they're experiencing as well. Now, a few other things. If I go over here and I click on Neil, oops, there's my mouse. On Neil, now most of the data here you would need to edit. So the first name, last name, username, and school, and so forth, because that comes via our data synchronization, which I'll talk a little bit more about later on. But that's where the data synchronization comes in. So we know that this would be Neil, let's say Smith, and it'd be neil.smith@school.com.au, because we only set up accounts with verified student and teacher school email addresses, no Gmail, Hotmail, or the likes. It's all done very accurately. Now, so I can see the students here, they're last active on the 23rd of the 7th. In this case, I click on user license, and now you can see the resources on the bookshelf. So if the student might be saying, look, I'm missing this particular resource, and you can look and you go, well, yeah, you're right, it's not on here. I wonder what that is. And maybe now we can look into whether they've purchased it or not, for example, or if there's a challenge with timetable data, if we are synchronizing our timetable structures together so that we know that a student might have moved from the year 11 physics class to year 11 chemistry, but the new chemistry resource hasn't appeared on the MyConnect bookshelf yet. Well, then the next place to look would be to check what the timetable data is doing, just to make sure that that is up to date, because we synchronize that between the school and our systems. So it's very fast, very snappy process. Okay, moving back, I have back to the main user area. So if on the top here, there's a content button. If I click content, this is going to list all the products that your school's currently using. and what's available via MyConnect. There is a trial license viewing area as well, which is pretty much where you can see what's happening with your teachers and whether they're trialing particular resources or not. This is also a system that's not made to be difficult. It's meant to be very easy and intuitive to get in, and just another area to check to do a bit of troubleshooting and the like. So, for example, if a teacher said they didn't have access and you type their email address in here or their name, and under the status column it said deactivated, well, then we can look further into understanding why that might be. It usually means that teacher might not be coming via the synchronization to Campion, because all our active and deactivated accounts are based around a synchronization of data. Okay, moving on. Now, this is a really important one, so I hope there's a lot of you still here. Looks like a good crowd, which is great. So this is a digital purchase report. To give you an understanding of what this is, so this is really based around book list or resource list schools, not so much your book hire model. This is really based around where it's a parent pay system. So they've got a book list, or they go online to purchase, or possibly via the retail store as well. So this gives you a bit more information about what's happening. So on the right-hand side here, you can, starting from the right, purchases area, F-code reports, and unmatched students. Now, F-code report and purchases are very similar. They're going to report on when you can look up a particular student or resource and see who has, and therefore probably who has not purchased the resource. So let's have a look here. So if I click on search under the purchases area, this will take you to the digital purchase report. Now, this is very broad at the moment because we've just done an open search of all the students and then all the resources. So across the middle here, you can see, well, starting, you've got the student, import identifier, the year level of the students, but you can see there's a bunch of codes. So E20117, for example, and the likes. If I waved my cursor over that in the proper product, that would actually identify what that code represents. But as I'm just doing a little bit of trickery in PowerPoint, I can't quite demonstrate that. Now, so then each code represents a different product, and then you can identify whether a student has or therefore has not purchased it. If you click on the select products button here, it will then appear with all the products, and you can actually just pick one product, a number of products, whatever it is. If you're really trying to identify who has or hasn't bought a particular resource, this is another way to really narrow that down. There is, next to that select products button, there is a export button, so that you can export the report into an Excel CSV file where you can manipulate that more and actually get a bit more, play around with it a bit more than what you can within our platform here. Now, for example, if I click on a student on the left-hand side here, I'm just going to click on Thomas. This is going to come up with Thomas's resources. So this is showing that he's bought Cambridge VCE accounts 1 and 2, senior mathematics and physical education. It identifies a purchase date as well, and the way and the method in which it was ordered. So home delivery, student ordering, so that was done via the web, or there could have been retail done via from one of our retail stores. So it's just, again, a good identifier on what resources have been purchased. More often than not, a little year 7 student doesn't really know what mum or dad bought, but this is a good way to identify if they might be missing a particular resource in class. Okay, shooting on back now, going to unmatched. Now this is where it's important. So when we take an order, and I'll give an example of a year. So if it's a year 7 parent, often they don't know their son or daughter's student school email address at the time of when they place their order. So when a parent orders and we ask for an email address from the student, they might just put their parent's email or a Gmail or a Hotmail or whatever that might look. Now, we won't ever provision or set up any resources based on an email address that isn't verified from data that we get from the school. So as I talked earlier about synchronization of data, that's what creates the perfect solution from a single sign-on perspective, but also to make sure that it's authentic and genuine accounts for your students and teachers. So when an order is placed, if the parent knows the email address and we check the first name, surname, and the email address, and it matches what we've got behind the scene, that whole order then goes through our system, gets released, the digital goes where it needs to, the print gets delivered, home delivered, or whatever is necessary that's required. But from a digital perspective, when there's an unmatched order, so for example, we might have taken an email address, we've taken an order without a student school email address because a parent didn't know it. And for example, the name might be obscure. So it might be Jim instead of James, Smith, and we might not have an email address, so our system couldn't match that was James Smith, not Jim Smith, for example. Our system has the smarts to do most of the matching automatically, but there is times where there will be students that can't be matched for a number of those reasons. So this gives you a very proactive way to go in and identify them, because if we can't match them, we'd have to come to you as a school and go, hey, here's a report, or here are these students that have placed an order and we can't identify them. Can you identify them? Same deal though goes if you've got a student coming up to you saying, hey, mum or dad placed my order, but I don't have any digital resources, then you need to come and contact us, and then then we would have to fix that challenge. Whereas with this platform, this service, this solution, you can actually identify and fix this yourself on the spot. So I'll click search. This is very broadly 2025. Now this is just every student that's currently classed as unmatched. So you can see on the left hand side here, I'm just going to click on Luke Hodge, and we can see that Luke Hodge, by the looks of things, is a year 7 student because they purchased a college digital resource for year 7, and another number of other year 7 students. Now we couldn't identify this student for one of the reasons I mentioned before, meaning that we didn't have the student school email address. Perhaps it was a Lucas Hodge instead of Luke. But either way, if you as a school know who that student is, then you can enter in that email address down here, followed by the year level, and then hit the submit button. What that does is that matches that student and pushes it out the system, and then it'll start provisioning, setting up the resources. So it's a really good and effective way of making sure that these unmatched orders don't get held up for any reason. We do our best to try to match, but sometimes we can't, and only you can identify who that might be. So simply put, pressing submit, and that will release those digital orders that have been stuck in a holding bay, usually because of that we weren't able to match the order. Okay, so moving on, Secure Connect. Okay, so this is a bit more of an admin area, or for an area that for people that look after the actual data, that synchronization, where we get the student and teacher data from, timetable data. This shows you where your classes are. As I mentioned earlier before, in the MyConnect admin portal area, if a student says, hey, I don't have my chemistry resource, I've changed from physics to chemistry 2 days ago, yesterday, today, a week, whatever that looks like, and I don't have the resource yet, and you go through the MyConnect admin portal, look at that student's account. Yes, there's no physics or chemistry, whichever one I said. The new subject resource is not on that student's account. Then a next point of call is to check the timetable data that we're receiving. Now I'll get into that now. So, but firstly, looking at the import jobs area, what you can see here. So this is just saying, identifying what's happening with the data, what's coming through. You can see I've highlighted that here on the teacher area that there has been one new teacher placed. So if I click on teachers, it just goes to a bit of a deeper dive on what's happening with that data and the like. So it's across the top here. If I hit teachers created, I can see that the new teacher at school.com.au was the new account that was created during this synchronization or this load of data. And that's how it works. So when we get the new data, so if a new teacher gets created by the school, that comes straight over to our system, and we automatically provision those resources. So you as a school don't have to notify us when you've got a new student, new teacher, new timetable, all the likes. If that synchronization set up, that's all automated, making it really proactive process as well. So let's have a look at students. Clicking on students here, now this is a breakdown of all the students. You can see there's a status column that says active. You can search for a particular student, but from here we can see that these are year 12 students sitting here. And if I clicked on a particular student, I'll click on Connor. Now I can see the student classes. So this is the classes that Connor is connected to. So this was a good example of if this year 10 student was in biology, but they changed to year 10 chemistry, but they don't have the chemistry resource yet. You can look at the student data that's coming through to us, and we can clearly see the biology is still there, the chemistry is not. So that way you can follow up at your end and go, hey, has the timetable been updated now that Connor's now in the chemistry class? So it's a really good system. We're just trying to give you more tools so you get a little bit more transparency on what's happening with your data, and also some good tools to troubleshoot when you have a student coming up to you wondering why they don't have a particular resource. Moving on is the teachers area, and that's much the same. It's this way you can find where teachers are. It's a good way you can search to make sure the teacher is created, is in the account, and is getting synchronized to us. And for example, if you looked for a teacher and under the active column it was a big red cross and deactivated, well then that's a trigger to go and identify why that teacher is no longer getting synchronized from the school to Campion, whether that teacher has left, whether it could be mistakenly taken off the data import or the likes. It's just, again, another way that we can help try to identify if there is any troubleshooting problems. Subjects. So this is a good way of making sure that your subjects and the classes that are associated with that subject are accurate. So you can see here they've got Year 7 French. So there's a subject code of B07FR for French. But then you've got the class codes of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way up to 9. This is, again, another good troubleshooting tool if you've got a student that's staying in Year 7 French, but they're in class B07FR10, for example. That class code's not here. So that means that student won't receive that particular resource because that class isn't attached to this particular subject. So from that point, it gives you another option to identify and look into whether the timetable data is accurate or up to date, that we're getting synchronized as well, synchronized to us. And then back to the imports page. Now, so that's a pretty quick, and I'm being mindful of everyone's time, so I appreciate everyone's hanging around. They're the 4 key digital resources or digital areas that we wanted to touch on today and give you a bit of an overview, but also to trigger the conversation. So if you're having challenges at school or you need some additional support from your account managers or from your digital team, please reach out so we can have a bit of a deeper dive and or support you as your school. But even if it means presenting to your faculty heads as well on a broader level to make sure that they're all confident and comfortable in using the platform as well. It is intuitive. It is meant to be an easy process as well, so we don't want anyone to be fearful of it. It's just a value add for resources that technically you're already paying for. We're just trying to make it easier to get to with a few more options attached onto that as well. So Susanna, Rob, was there any questions or anything that might have come through? Any feedback?
Thanks for that, Paul. Just for everyone, thanks for joining us. Thanks for taking some time out of your busy days. I hope you found that useful. If we can assist in any more afterwards, or anyone else that you'd like to, we have recorded the webinar as well. Please get in contact with your account manager, or you can email digitalhelp@campion.com.au. That's digitalhelp, one word, @campion.com.au. We've been joined by our marketing manager, Susanna Bowen. Susanna, any questions to deal with, or are we closing off?
Hi, Paul. Hi, Rob. We do have a couple of questions in the chat, or in the Q&A, sorry. So
Perfect.
If anyone else would like to pop questions in, please do that. So first up, hi, Paul. From an admin perspective, can I manually add staff in Secure Connect? For example, our learning support officers do not appear in the data sync, but they require access to textbooks every day. How can I get that resolved for them?
Good question. So that, because as rightfully said, it is a synchronization of data, teachers, for example, and this isn't uncommon. Currently the best form to make those teachers accounts enter our system is to contact your account manager or someone from the digital team and identify those email addresses and first name, surname, and then we'll manually add those behind the scenes. I know we're looking to add the feature where you as a school can manually add accounts as well that are external from the synchronization, but as it stands at the moment, reach out and we can very easily add those, and you'll only have to do that once.
Fantastic. Thank you, Paul. And we've got one more. Is there a limit to the number of staff who can have admin access at one school?
Depending on which type of admin access. So if you're looking at admin access from the MyConnect portal where you want to see what's on students' accounts, might need to impersonate a user and the likes, that's up to the school. We're happy to set up or admin accounts to anyone that's required. When you get to the data management area, that's probably more of an IT role there, but then there's also different views and things like, as I demonstrated before, when you can search to see whether particular subjects that come through. By all means, reach out. There isn't really a right or wrong number of users. It's just making sure that it's effectively communicated in the school and or trained so that the teachers and or staff know how to use it.
Fantastic. Thank you, Paul. If people do want to reach out, they contact their account manager, or Rob, do you want to give that email address again?
Certainly. That's your account manager, or one word, email digitalhelp@campion.com.au. digitalhelp@campion.com.au. Thank you, Paul, for your passing on your wonderful skills. Hope everyone enjoyed it. Hope you take something away, and we look forward to being in contact again. Thanks again. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for your time. Bye all.